here's also what happened, folks, with gerrymandering. Of course, in Maryland, a federal judge threw out that particular congressional district and ordered them to redraw that district as well. Now, here's a drawing that was in the Washington Post. You see that particular district. The part on the left is heavily Republican. Dems in the state added an all area on the right that is heavily Democrat. Now, court said the district was partisan gerrymandering. Now, here's the issue here. Supreme Court had the case of the gerrymandering in Wisconsin, but they kicked it back to a lower court. They did not want to really rule on this. I'm going to go to you, Lauren, first. Bottom line is this here. Supreme Court is going to have to deal with this here. And another reason why they wanted Kavanaugh on their court and why they wanted Gorsuch on their court, because Republicans, they desperately hope the Supreme Court will allow partisan gerrymandering. All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just 1 moment. All right, folks, now some words from one of our partners. You've heard me talk about our friends at Transatlantic Real Estate who have created a unique investment opportunity that combines legal marijuana and crowdfunding. Now, after you let that sink in for just a moment, think about the growing momentum around legal marijuana in this country. It has been on a number of ballots, and if you are an investor, there's never been a better time to get into the marijuana game. However, as markets grow, so does the barrier to entry, which means it will take millions, if not billions, to invest, not to mention the risk of starting a new venture. That's what makes this opportunity so special. Transatlantic Real Estate is different, and their business model is very simple to understand. They buy land that supports marijuana grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. Now, that means that you're investing in the landlord of a licensed marijuana farm. The best part is they are using crowdfunding to make it easy for the average person to get in before they take the company public. So for a limited time, you can invest as little as $300 or up to $10,000. And here's a pro tip. You must complete and confirm your application to participate in this opportunity. Don't be the person who missed out because you rushed and didn't complete the process. Now, to invest, all you got to do is go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org to get into the game and to get in now. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video. And Wisconsin is so dastardly. What they did was, your party, Brandon, in Wisconsin, they secretly drew the maps, put together, they used the computer and the algorithm.
Who drew the map in Wisconsin?
Republicans did.
Okay.
And what they did was they hired a firm to do it. Then what they did is, if you were Republican and you were Republican, they would call you into the room. The room was off, was not in the Capitol. They would call you into the room, and they would make you sign a document that you were not going to reveal what the maps look like. And they would show you the maps and how they strategically stripped voters from all these different areas to create the widest possible margin. The New York Times did an analysis saying that if Democrats in Wisconsin won 55% of all votes in Wisconsin, they would still be in the minority in terms of controlling the legislature because of how the Republicans crafted the districts with gerrymandering. That's the case that went to the Supreme Court.
In Wisconsin. I thought we were talking about Maryland.
No, I said, I said.
Yeah.
Is it
Wisconsin.
have you, Brandon, have you created some rule that nobody can change an argument?
No,
or have you created a rule where we only discuss Maryland?
It's apples to apples. You can't.
No, it's not.
Maryland legislators.
That's not what I just said.
Going back to what you
Brandon,
I got you,
Brandon.
I got you.
I explained Wisconsin. Brandon, I explained Wisconsin because that was the case that went to the Supreme Court.
I got you, Roland.
I explained Pennsylvania because that was the case that went to the Supreme Court. They rejected it.
Gotcha.
I explained the case of North Carolina where the Supreme Court ruled against the districts. I just explained the one district in Maryland where the federal judge threw it out.
It was two, actually. First
Okay,
off. Secondly,
two.
Let's go back. The reason you talk about Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, North Carolina is because Republicans drew the legislator. In
that's
Maryland,
not true.
It was Democrats who drew the legislator. And what you did not mention in your opening monologue
That's not true.
was the fact that the NAACP and the Fannie Lou Hamer PAC in Maryland back in 2010 alleged racial discrimination by the Democrats.
You missed the question to the panel.
Okay, of
the
course.
question I said to the panel was, let me help you out. Let me roll it back to help you out.
I got
the
you.
question I threw to the panel was, isn't it time for the Supreme Court to finally settle this issue of gerrymandering? That was the question,
Can I
Brandon.
respond to your question, Roland?
Lauren first.
There you go.
You know what? This is the Kellyanne Conway School of Argument. I want to talk about what I want to talk about, and then when it gets hot in the kitchen for my party, I want to change the subject. That's why you want to go 150 years back to find somebody who's a good Republican.
You mentioned that.
But
you
whatever.
About the history of that.
Whatever.
I mean,
which party does voter suppression in America?
I will stop talking. Get your point out, Lauren, so that I can respond.
Which party? No, you're going to respond to
this.
this question. Which party does voter suppression in America?
Again, it depends on each case you want to look at. If you want to go and peel the onion back, let's have that discussion. But if you just want to talk about the surface level, I ain't got time for that. Go on with your point.
Erica, I'm going to ask you here.
Go on with your point.
Eric, I'm going to ask you again.
Okay.
Supreme Court is going to have to stop being wimps and deal with partisan gerrymandering, because the problem is what we are seeing across this country. You have Republicans who control 30-plus legislatures, and by being in control of that many, most of the cases, most of the lawsuits, again, the case before the Supreme Court, which they kicked back to the lower court, was specifically out of Wisconsin. Everyone is watching to see what they decide in the Wisconsin case, because that's going to give guidance to every other state depending upon how the Supreme Court rules. They didn't rule. They kicked it back to the lower court. They're going to have to make a decision on this.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you mentioned North Carolina, because this was something that the bishop, Dr. William Barber, really fought hard against, because when their case went before the courts, I think that one of the judges said that it was gerrymandered with, I believe he said, surgical precision. So you're absolutely right. This is something that does have to be settled by the Supreme Court to set a precedence for all states, so that this is not something that we continue to see, particularly coming up to the 2020 elections, and then we have redistricting.
And the reason they got to decide, Brandon, because of how they are using computers and algorithms to now construct these districts, it has gotten to the point where it is so shameful that, frankly, what they did in Michigan is critically important. I believe that the drawing of districts should be completely taken out of the hands of the legislature, and it should be completely about a completely independent commission that is fair and just.
And I agree with you 100%, Roland. And what you see, if you look at Maryland, what they did in 2010, the Democrats looked at the state, found where the black people live, Montgomery County, Prince George's County, Baltimore City, and if you look up that map again, they went in and divided up black communities to put them in majority white districts, because they know black people vote Democrat, and to keep the hold on there. It's not just me saying that. You can look at the NAACP, the Legal Defense Fund, the Fannie Lou Hamer PAC that filed a lawsuit against it. Also, Congresswoman Donna Edwards, a black Democrat. They all called out the racist Democrats in Maryland who use black voters to keep white male Democrat incumbents in power.
Lauren,
so I agree with you 100%.
In North Carolina, North Carolina A&T is literally split. The campus is split in half because Republicans there don't want the largest HBCU in North Carolina to be in one district. They literally split the campus in half.
Right.
Again, the Supreme Court, two things have to happen. The Supreme Court either is going to rule, or there should be more ballot initiatives like in Michigan,
where
they actually control it. It's supposed to let it be in the hands of partisan legislators.
Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, frankly, as we know, it's quite clear that the policy of the Republican Party is to make it as difficult to vote as possible in America. We saw that right after Barack Obama's election. We'll see more of it in North Carolina and any other place we have Republican governors and legislatures. That's just a fact.
All right, well,
And,
again, time for the Supreme Court to do something.